All right, let's talk Miami. Planning a trip there can feel like a lot, right? So many options? Well, we've boiled down all the best travel advice into your essential 5-minute guide. Let's get you ready for the Magic City.
Okay, so here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with getting in and getting around, then dive into the must-see sites, figure out the best time for you to visit, and we'll wrap up with some pro tips to make your whole trip just a breeze. First things first, you got to get your bearings. So let's talk about the nitty-gritty of getting from the airport and actually navigating the city once you're there.
So you've just landed. The plane doors open, you step out into that Miami air. Now what? This is the first question every single traveler faces. But don't worry, you've got some really convenient options waiting for you.
You basically have three main choices to get out of the airport. If you're on a budget, the MetroRail is a great choice. You just hop on the free MIA mover to get to it. But for that direct-to-your-hotel convenience, a rideshare or a taxi is always there, and you're typically looking at about $15 to $25 to get downtown or over to the beach.
And here's a fantastic little local tip for when you're settled in. Keep your eyes peeled for the free Miami trolley. Seriously, it's an awesome way to explore neighborhoods like Little Havana and get a feel for the place without spending a single dime.
Now, if you're thinking about renting a car, there's one thing you absolutely need to be aware of, and that's the toll system. This is where something called a SunPass comes in. It's basically a little electronic gadget that makes paying all those tolls totally seamless.
Okay, so here's a key decision you've got to make. You can totally use the transponder from the rental car company, but, and this is a big but, they'll hit you with a daily fee, often $5 to $10, on top of the actual tolls. And here's the real kicker. Some companies charge you that fee for every single day of your rental, even if you don't use a toll road that day. For any trip longer than a couple of days, it's honestly way cheaper to just buy your own SunPass at a local store. That way, you only pay for the tolls you actually use.
All right, logistics are sorted. Now that you know how to get around, let's dive into the really fun part, exploring all the things that make Miami such an unforgettable place to visit.
Of course, you can't go to Miami and not talk about South Beach. It is iconic for a reason. You've got to stroll down the legendary Ocean Drive. Just soak in all that pastel-colored Art Deco architecture, and of course, find your perfect spot on the sand. Hey, a little pro tip for you, head down to South Pointe Park around sunset. You can watch these massive cruise ships sailing right out to sea. It's amazing.
But you know, the real soul of Miami is found way beyond the beach. To feel the city's true cultural heartbeat, you have to go to Little Havana. Just wander down the famous Calle Ocho, hear that live Latin music spilling out of the cafes, and trust me, you should definitely sign up for a food and walking tour. It's the best way to experience it.
And for all you art lovers out there, Wynwood is an absolute must. It's less of a neighborhood and more like one giant, incredible outdoor art gallery. The Wynwood Walls are the famous part, but don't stop there. The entire area is just covered in these huge, breathtaking murals. It's a total feast for the eyes.
And the variety just keeps going. I mean, in a single trip, you can feel like you're in Europe at the historic Vizcaya Museum, and then a few hours later, you're doing some modern shopping right on the water at Bayside Marketplace. You can go from the energy of Zoo Miami to the wild natural beauty of the Everglades. It's all right there.
So, now you know what you want to do, but the big question is, when's the best time to actually go? Let's take a quick look at the seasons to help you figure that out.
Miami's seasons are a classic trade-off. In the winter months, say January to March, the weather is perfect. We're talking highs in the 70s. But that's also when it's the absolute busiest. On the flip side, if you go in July or August, it's going to be hotter and more humid, for sure. But you'll have way smaller crowds to deal with. It all comes down to what you value more.
You know, the sweet spot for a lot of people seems to be late fall into early winter. That stretch from about mid-November through New Year's often gives you that perfect mix of clear skies, super comfortable temperatures, and all that holiday energy right before the peak season crowds really descend.
Okay, final section. Let's cover a few last-minute tips that will make your trip that much better. You know, the little things that can make a huge difference.
Traveling with the family, Miami is absolutely packed with stuff for kids. For animal lovers, you've got Zoo Miami and Jungle Island. If you need a break from the heat, the Children's Museum and the Frost Science Museum are both fantastic. And for just letting them run wild and burn off some energy, South Pointe Park has a great splash pad to cool everyone down. Here's a question we see all the time. I have a layover at MIA. Should I leave the airport? And the honest answer from people who travel a lot is probably not. Unless it's a very, very long layover, the traffic in Miami can be so unpredictable that the risk of missing your connection just isn't worth the stress.
And speaking of connections, you really have to know that an international arrival is a completely different ballgame than a domestic one. If you're flying in from another country, you've got to go through that whole time-consuming process of immigration, customs, getting your bags, rechecking them. Just plan on it taking a lot of time. A simple domestic connection, on the other hand, can usually be done in about 90 minutes if you're on time.
You know, this quote from travel expert Sarah Greaves-Gabadon just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures what Miami is all about today. There is this whole, diverse, incredible city just waiting for you to discover it, way beyond the sand and the shoreline.
So there you have it, your essential guide to Miami. We've given you the roadmap to the Art Deco scenes, the amazing culture, the wild nature, all of it existing side by side. The only question left is, what part of Miami will you discover?